Joining us now is Montana Congressman Matt Rosendale. Congressman, welcome. It sounds like Putin doesn't care about those sanctions. So what do you think happens next?
I agree that he probably doesn't. And we've demonstrated over the last 12 months that the leadership in the White House is too weak to pursue the economic sanctions and keep them in place that should have been done. So when we start hearing conversations of the direction of this not changing over the last couple of weeks, the direction of this hasn't changed for the last 12 months. That is why it's so critically important that I introduced the Secure America's Borders First Act just last week to say, if we are so concerned about the borders of a country several thousand miles away, when our own southern border has an invasion taking place,
Sure.
We got our priorities mixed up.
Yeah,
it is long past time, past time that America's foreign affairs direction is focused on the American people.
I wanted to ask you about that legislation because, we continue to report on the record-setting numbers of illegal crossings into this country through the southern border. But right now, when it comes to what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, there's been a warning for Americans to get out however you can, essentially find your own way out. Also, of course, we've sent troops to the region, not to Ukraine, but to our Eastern European allies, and also that military equipment that we delivered to Ukrainian forces. Do you support that aspect of the Biden's policy and their White House's approach?
I think that we need to secure our southern border first. We have no moral or legal obligation to insert American soldiers or treasure into Ukraine, a country that most people would have a difficult time finding on a map. 2 years ago, all we have heard is how corrupt Ukraine is. The entire world has been using them as a laundromat to clean their dirty money and then send it back out again to dirty politicians. And we do not have any moral or legal obligation to insert American troops or treasure into that country.
If Russia were to Ukraine, there's been some dates floating around, perhaps this week, perhaps Wednesday. What should be the United States' response?
The United States needs to secure our southern border first, Emma. That is what we need to do. Again, there's enough other countries around the Ukraine that if they have concerns, they need to build up their defenses to make sure that nothing happens. We have no moral or legal obligation to insert ourselves into the Ukraine. We had 100,000 people in the United States die last year from fentanyl overdoses. Young people, youths across our country, 100,000 people. We've got our own problems taking place. And that fentanyl is coming across the southern border from China. We need to make sure that we secure our borders first. It's in statute right now that we're supposed to have a conditional operational control over the southern border. 2006, it went into law. We don't have operational control of the southern border. The cartels have operational control over our southern border. We need to complete the wall. We need to complete the monitoring systems to monitor what is going on there and make sure that we also complete the all-weather road so that the Border Patrol can actually go up and down that border and see what's going on.
Sure. You've made your priorities clear. And I've got, again, those numbers to sort of back up what you're alluding to. Again, these record numbers of crossings that we've seen. Here's just a recent number here, 152,000, almost 153,000 apprehended. This is for January, okay, 45,000 gotaways. You were talking about this bill you introduced recently, the Secure America's Borders First Act. I know you're passionate about it, and perhaps GOP colleagues of yours would also be in support of it. What about those on the other side of the aisle? Have you heard any support for it there?
I think there are going to be some people on the other side of the aisle. The biggest problem that we have, the hurdle that we face with them, is they still have this obsession about President Trump and making an investment in the border wall. So maybe we can get them to come along and support it because of securing our nation and to make sure that we have safe streets for people to travel around on. I mean, that would be a very, very big step forward. But we do have war hawks on both sides of the aisle that would love nothing more than to insert us into another conflict around the world. And it is a major problem. We have to secure our nation's borders first to take care of our people. You talk about the getaways that they had just in January, Emma. Let me tell you something. There were 700,000 people that entered our country illegally and released into our country illegally last year. 700,000. That is nearly the population of Montana. And where are they? And what are they doing? And what kind of criminal backgrounds do they have? We're not sure about that. But what we are sure of is there's record amounts of fentanyl that are coming into the country. There's records amounts of criminals that are coming into the country. And there's records amounts of human trafficking that is taking place with all these folks that are coming in here illegally.
Sure. Again, we continue to follow the border crisis story, and I'm talking about the southern border right here on Newsmax, so we hope our viewers stay tuned for that. Congressman Matt Rosendale joining us on the program. Congressman, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me on, Emma.
You got it.